Johnny Talk Sports here, and I am redoing my mock draft 5.0 from earlier in the week because I went back and listened to it myself, and I personally didn't like the way the audio was being presented. It was the first and only time that I will ever use my headphones to record. I just wanted to try the headphones out for once to see how it went. And after I listened back on the audio, I didn't like it. So I'm going to redo it using the microphone, which I normally use and I'm always going to use from here on out. So for those of you that saw the original mock draft 5.0, I do apologize. But there is a small change here, and I will explain it when I get to it. But a lot of these picks, they are the same. And the Jaguars, the number one pick, I did have Evan Neal being the first pick in the previous four mock drafts. But now I have been wavering a bit, and I've been wavering on it since I uploaded the fourth mock draft. And I now think the Jaguars will go with Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. Because I remembered what the Jaguars did in free agency, and they made adjustments to their offensive line, which included franchise tagging Cam Robinson, their best offensive lineman. The second pick, I had the Lions going with Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. And there was some rumors out there that the Lions and Dan Campbell, they don't like Kayvon Thibodeau's personality, but I do think that this is a smokescreen. Now, why exactly would this be a smokescreen? I have no idea, but that could possibly be the case. We do see smokescreens all the time the closer we get to draft night, as we are a week away from the NFL draft. So the Lions are going with Thibodeau at 2. Number 3, I have the Texans going with Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. And I just feel like when you have the needs that the Texans do, which is pretty much every single position, I think it's best you just go with the best player available that is on the board. And in this case, it is Kyle Hamilton. Number 4, the Jets. I think they're going to go with Ahmad Gardner out of Cincinnati. As I think Ahmad Gardner, him and Derek Stingley, they're the two best corners in this draft. But I do think that Gardner is going to be the first one off the board, because I think there are going to be teams out there that are probably not willing to take a risk on someone like Derek Stingley, at least towards the top of the draft. Because after his freshman season at LSU, he didn't really play that much. In fact, I think after his freshman year, I think he only played in a total of 10 games, which is less than a season because of his injury history as the biggest concern. Number 5, the Giants, they boost up their offensive line, and they go with Evan Neal out of Alabama. And the Giants, they will be picking again coming up here in a second. But the 6th pick, the Panthers, I have been tinkering back and forth on who the Panthers are going to take at number 6, because I am almost certain that they will go the quarterback here. But I am leaning it towards being Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. I think they're either taking Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis. If they do indeed go the quarterback, which I'm about 90 to 95% sure that they are going to go quarterback. But I think it's Kenny Pickett, because I think you can really debate who's the top quarterback in this class, whether it's Pickett or Willis. But there are many people out there that say that a quarterback isn't worth taking the top 10, which I don't think that's the case whatsoever. I think that people only think that because so far this draft is stacked up with defensive talent here. Because the quarterbacks, they're not at the top of the mock drafts like they normally are. The Giants are back on the clock with the 7th pick, and I think they go the best available based off of their needs, and that is Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. This is a great pick for the Giants. They get somebody with championship pedigree, where Walker is coming off of a national championship with the Georgia Bulldogs. So I think this could be a good fit. The 8th pick, the Falcons are on the clock, and depending on what the Falcons feel like their biggest need is on draft night, I think the pick is going to either be Jordan Davis, Jermaine Johnson, or a wide receiver. But I think it's going to be wide receiver. I've had the Falcons going wide receiver in every single mock draft that I've done so far, and this one is going to be no different. And I think it's going to be Drake London out of USC. I mean, as someone that follows the Falcons very closely, I'm happy with any receiver as long as it's not someone that they are reaching on. I mean, I would like Jameson Williams, but I feel like they could trade down a little bit and get Jameson Williams. But I like Drake London to be the pick here. I'd be happy with Garrett Wilson. I'd be okay with Jameson Williams if it was a pick that's maybe around 12 to 15, but not at number 8. So I'm going to go with Drake London. Number 9, the Seahawks are on the clock, and I think they boost up their O-line. And they go with Akeem Ekwonu out of NC State. As the Seahawks, they have really struggled with their offensive line for as long as we can all remember. And what better way to finally start rebuilding, as the Seahawks are in rebuilding mode, than to boost up the offensive line, as that is, in my opinion, the biggest struggle for them. Despite people thinking it's the defense, I feel like the Seahawks defense, they have had their moments in the past couple of years. Despite it not looking too good, they've had their moments. Jets are back on the clock, and I think they will go wide receiver here. I think they're going to go with the best one on the board, maybe even the best in this class. That's Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. Zach Wilson gets a weapon. I think Garrett Wilson has the potential of being a consistent Pro Bowler in his NFL career. And with as stacked as we've seen the wide receiver groups the last couple of years, think of all the first-round wide receivers that we've had already make a big impact or have had the potential of making a big impact. We saw Jamar Chase this season. Justin Jefferson's made a big impact already. CeeDee Lamb, he's made an impact, but I think not as much as Jefferson or Chase. Jerry Jeudy has potential to really have a big impact on the league. And I think the group of wide receivers that get taken in the first round here are going to be no different. The 11th pick, the Washington Commanders, I think they follow suit, and they go wide receiver here as well. Chris Olave out of Ohio State. This can also be a compliment to Terry McLaurin, or maybe even the new wide receiver 1 in Washington. As rumor has it, Terry McLaurin did not show up to the Commanders' workouts, although I don't really think much of it because I do believe that these are all voluntary workouts at this point. So I really don't think anything of it. But either way, I think this is a great compliment to Terry McLaurin. Give Carson Wentz or whoever the next quarterback's going to be, whoever they intend it to be, a weapon. Now with the Vikings, and I think the Vikings, they are going to boost up that front 7. And they go with Jordan Davis out of Georgia. As I feel like this is a pick of best player available among their needs. I, however, would not be surprised if they did maybe go with Jameson Williams here, because Adam Thielen is getting up there in age. So I would not be surprised if there was a Drake London or a Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson available at 12. I would not be surprised one bit if the Vikings did take one of those guys if they were available. But I think Jordan Davis is the pick here for Minnesota. Next, we have the Texans. And I think the Texans, I think they focus on the O-line here. I think it's either O-line or Derek Stingley. But I think they go with Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. I do feel like there's a solid group of corners that have potential in later rounds, like Kyler Gordon out of Washington, Tariq Woolen out of UTSA, Roger McCreary out of Auburn, Cam Taylor-Britt, Nebraska, Mario Goodrich, Clemson, Kobe Bryant, Cincinnati, Josh Jobe, Alabama. Next, we have the Ravens on the clock, and I think plan A for the Ravens would be Jordan Davis. In fact, I'm about 95% sure it would be Jordan Davis if he's on the board, but he is not. So the Ravens, they need a plan. They need a plan B here. And I think the plan B is Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State. All right, so this is where it's going to get a bit interesting here in the draft. Eagles, Saints, Chargers, Eagles, Saints, the next 5 picks. So for the first round pick for the Eagles, I think they go with Derek Stingley Jr. at LSU, which is going to be a massive steal here. So this could be a high-risk, high-reward pick for Philadelphia by drafting Derek Stingley. As I mentioned earlier, his injury history, the fact that he wasn't on the field that much after his freshman season. But you got to think, Derek Stingley did really well in his freshman year, but he kind of got overshadowed by how good the 2019 LSU team was as a whole. But did he look good on the stat sheet because many quarterbacks weren't afraid to throw his way because he was a freshman? Could it be one of those Trayvon Diggs situations with the Cowboys where people think he's a good corner because he puts up great interception numbers, but he always gets picked on because he's constantly burnt in coverage? So high risk, high reward pick here with the Eagles going with Stingley. Saints, I think they go wide receiver here because they do want Chris Olave if he's on the board, but he is off the board. And I think they have to go with the closest thing to a Chris Olave as possible. And I think that's Jameson Williams at Alabama. And I think Jameson Williams is going to be ready to go once the season begins because he did tear his ACL in the championship game. But I think he's ready to go. I think Jameson Williams is going to have good production in this Saints offense. But now we got to see what the Saints do with their next first-round pick. 17, the Chargers. I think the Chargers, they focus on – I think it's either they focus on the offensive line or they focus on the interior defensive line. And this is where one of my changes is getting kicked into place here. I think they go with Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia. I do think Trevor Penning would be a good pick here for the Chargers, but they did make some moves within the offensive line last year. But they do say that defense wins championships and the game's won in the trenches. So I think Devontae Wyatt or Trevor Penning would be the ideal pick here, but I think it's Devontae Wyatt. Next, we have the Eagles on the clock for their second first-round pick. And I think that they will go wide receiver. And I think that a good move here would be Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. Because the Eagles, they have drafted a wide receiver in the first round. The most recent two NFL drafts, Jalen Reagor and Devontae Smith. And I think the main objective for the Eagles is to get rid of Jalen Reagor some way, somehow. Or just forget all about him. I think drafting Treylon Burks is a smart pick here. I think the Eagles, they get a steal here in Burks. As I think Treylon Burks is built like a Deebo Samuel. And I think the Eagles, they're in contention of potentially getting Deebo Samuel. But if they can't get him, then I think Treylon Burks is a nice backup plan for them. Number 19, the Saints, I think they get their quarterback. And I think they get Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. I do think this is the type of quarterback the Saints want. Plus, I do believe they are going to be looking at a quarterback because the Jameis Winston deal is what it is for a reason. Now we have the Steelers on the clock. And the Steelers, I think they take a quarterback as well, follow suit. They go with Malik Willis out of Liberty. Next, we have the Patriots. And I should mention that I really doubt Mitch Trubisky is the long-term solution for Pittsburgh. So I think they go with Malik Willis as potentially their quarterback of the future. Number 21, I think the Patriots go with a linebacker here. And I am going to say they go with Nakobe Dean out of Georgia. I think Nakobe Dean fits right in with the Patriots defense. Next, we have the Packers on the clock. And the Packers, I think there is no doubt that they go with a wide receiver with one of their two first-round picks. And I think they go with the best one on the board at this moment, and that is Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. Number 23, the Cardinals are on the clock, and I think they start to address their offensive line. Even though it's not really a priority for them, they haven't really addressed their offensive line in the past. So I think they go with Zion Johnson out of Boston College. Number 24, the Cowboys are on the clock, and I think the Cowboys, I think they're going to go with, I think they go with Daxton Hill out of Michigan. As the Cowboys defense, they did show some improvements from last year, but improvements when it comes to a defense like the Cowboys, it's really undersell. It's really, it could be overselling it if there was improvements. Plus, Daxton Hill's got some great speed, and I think Daxton Hill is going to have potential to succeed no matter which team he gets drafted to. Number 25, I had the Bills going with a running back here. I think they go with Breece Hall out of Iowa State. Running backs don't really get taken in the first round as much anymore, but there is usually at least one running back that gets selected in round one. And I think this year that running back will be Breece Hall. Although I could see Kenneth Walker maybe getting drafted in the first round, depending on if there's like a team that needs a running back that will trade back into the first round or something like that. But I would say at this point, there's only going to be one running back taken in round one, if any. Next, we've got the Titans. And I think the Titans, I think they're going to look at, I think they're going to take George Karlaftis out of Purdue. As Karlaftis, he was a top 10 pick in a lot of mock drafts at the beginning of this process, but he has fallen a little bit off the board, all the way down to pick 26. And I think the Titans, this is a pretty nice deal for them. Number 27, I think this is the ideal pick here for Tampa Bay. I think they go with Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. As the Buccaneers, their objective is to protect Tom Brady at all costs, as they are going all in this year for them to win it this season. Number 28, the Packers, I think they go with an edge rusher here. And I think they go with Boye Mafe out of Minnesota. Although they could consider reach for David Ojabo, but I think this could be a bit of a reach here to take David Ojabo, as he did tear his Achilles at his pro day. So I think they go with Boye Mafe, as I do think that Boye Mafe is worthy of being a first-round pick. And I do feel like if he didn't go to the school that he went, if he went to somewhere like an Ohio State, or if he went to an Alabama, or even a Miami, because Miami does produce good NFL prospects, he'd probably be in the top 15. All right, back-to-back picks here for Kansas City. And I do think realistically, I would say it's possible that one of these picks will get traded, but I will address these picks back-to-back. So this is kind of an obvious pick. Sky Moore at pick 29. They've been interested in Sky Moore since the day they traded Tyreek Hill to Miami. So Sky Moore at 29. And Trent McDuffie at pick 30 as they improve their secondary. The Bengals at pick 31, they also addressed their cornerback need, and they go with Andrew Booth Jr. at Clemson, as we saw Eli Apple just completely get toasted in the Super Bowl, especially on that final drive. So they go with Andrew Booth Jr. And the final pick of the first round, though, the Lions, they have a decision here to make. There's three different possibilities they can do. They could go with their quarterback, but as you can see, the Lions, they have a pretty early second-round pick. So they're going to be picking just 2 picks after this. So they can take a quarterback, they can take a Matt Corral or a Sam Howell or a Carson Strong or whoever. They could address maybe a bigger need, maybe a wide receiver or even a safety. But I think they go linebacker here, and I think they go with Devin Lloyd out of Utah. Because if the Lions want a quarterback, they can take one at pick 34, because worst case scenario, either Matt Corral or Sam Howell will be on the board at pick 34. And considering the Jaguars are picking in front of them, near 100% chance that they'll get a choice between Matt Corral or Sam Howell. So the Lions, they address a bigger need compared to a quarterback. As the question is, do they want to be accepting of Jared Goff's contract? Because it's a pretty expensive contract that Jared Goff is on. So do they take a quarterback here at any point in the draft and see how he pans out? Or are they going to be patient with Jared Goff's contract, accept it, deal with it, maybe look for a quarterback next year or in 2024, 2025, or so on? So that will do it for my NFL Mock Draft 5.0. If you want round 2, I would be interested in doing that. Just let me know if you'd like it. And if enough people want to see it, I will upload it. So until next time, have a wonderful day.